just kind of rotate that way a little bit.
TikTok plumber influencer Aaron nearly lost his life due to improper fasting. He was simply doing something that is repeatedly praised on social media as discipline. The incident happened on Friday night. At the time, Aaron was in a fasting state. Shortly after, he began working out on an empty stomach. At first, his body didn't send out immediate warning signs, but soon, severe and abnormal pain suddenly set in. This pain was not typical muscle soreness, but a persistent, impossible to ignore alarm from his body. Eventually, Aaron collapsed on the spot and lost consciousness. The entire rescue was captured on video. The footage quickly spread online, sparking widespread discussion and controversy. Because in many people's minds, fasting combined with exercise has long been packaged as a symbol of self-control and willpower. It is described as being tough on yourself and promoted as a shortcut to a healthier and more successful lifestyle. When fasting collides with high-intensity training, when replenishment is ignored or even rejected, what's called discipline may simply be another form of burnout. As of now, there has been no update on Aaron's current condition, and fans are still waiting for further news.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. All praises to the Most High, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, which is to say in the Paleo-Hebrew, Yahweh, which is the name of our Heavenly Father, meaning He is, and that is what the world English calls God. Bahashem, which means in the name. Yahweh Shai, which means He is our salvation, and that is who the world also ignorantly calls Jesus, a so-called black man, who, by the way, only came for the Israelites. All right. Now, what brings us to our discussion / topic this morning is the, I guess you could say, internet sensation, or maybe just the internet personnel or persona that goes by the name of Aaron the plumber, was recently, diagnosed or, looked at after by EMT for what is allegedly to be said, him working out too hard alongside of fasting, and it didn't sit well with his body, okay? Because you have to know your body, all right? One thing you have to do is know your body, all right? If you push the limits, all right, especially when you're depleting it from its nutrients and its nourishment, you can go into something like this, what we saw, all right? That's why you have to know your body, okay? If you never did a full-pledged fast where you don't eat or drink and you just jump straight to it, and then you work out like a monster, what do you think is going to happen, all right? See? And that's the problem, all right? He probably thought because he was young and vibrant that he could handle the load, okay? And we seen, all right? We seen just what happened. He was on the ground crying, all right? Sobbing, looking for some type of relief, okay? Because you have to build your body up to that point, all right? You just don't jump into it not having, fast or worked your way up to a complete fast, okay? And then on top of that, you're lifting heavy, all right? You're lifting heavy, okay? So what do you expect to happen, all right? Now, if you fast, you might want to take it light, do a brief walk or, a brisk walk, or do some light weights, okay? Do some light weights, all right, till you build your body up, all right? But this is 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 8. It reads, "For bodily exercises profiteth little." See? All that concern about your body and how scope it looks and how chiseled you are. So you're going to go into a caloric deficit to try to get definition and all of that and all of this. It profiteth little if you ain't here to see it, all right? The Lord can take you out just like that. Because why? You're so vain. You're so into yourself, all right? Instead of being into this truth, okay? You can bet he done came across a Hebrew Israelite video too. You can bet he know who the Hebrew Israelites are. you can bet he knows he's a Hebrew Israelite. All right, but because he's so enamored and at all at himself, and he wants to be an internet sensation, you know, he's concerned about everything and anything other than this truth. All right, but that's to be expected because it says, "For many are called, but few are chosen." See, the Lord is only looking for those that are chosen. All right, and he just, as it currently sits, is not one of those ones that's chosen. All right, so it's to be expected of him and others alike that they're so caught up in this internet world that they try to, get views and likes. Who even know if that's real? All right, because now you got to question everything. Is that just for a stage incident to get likes? That voiceover don't even sound like it could be a real person, but AI. All right, does he have friends in the EMT, the paramedics that could put on a stage like that? But nevertheless, we're going to extrapolate from that anyways, and we're going to bring out a lesson, all right, because that's just another opportunity to feed the elect, Lord willing, Abaratasar, Father will. So it says, for bodily exercise profiteth little, right? Not saying that it isn't good, but it profiteth little mean that there's little to, no results compared to this truth, all right? It says, but godliness is profitable unto all things. See? But this word is profitable unto everything. All right. Whereas exercise, it may profit you a little bit. It may give you a little bit of a feeling of accomplishment. You may see yourself bench pressing 225 or squatting 350 or jogging 3 miles or what have you, but that pales in comparison to having this truth. All right, this is where it's at. So it says, but godliness is profitable into all things, having promise of the life that now is and of that which is to come. See, that's what we're waiting on. We're waiting on these eternal mortal bodies. Okay. Well, guess what? This realm that we living in and this body that we inhabiting in, hey, it's going to be changing in the twinkling of an eye, all right? We're going to get it all. We're going to be perfect, man, all right? See, you only have but a little time, a short time in this body, all right, before you start to, what's the word? Before you start to denigrate, is that a word I'm looking for? Before you start to deteriorate, all right? Whether it's your body, whether it's your mind, because this is all part of this flesh that we in, man. So it's just all in vain, okay? We rather look towards something that's meaningful, all right, which is this word, it's truth. It says, verse 9, this is a faithful saying and worthy of all exception, all right? So this is where we at with it, okay? We'll exercise because you got to stay in shape, You got to watch your what do you call it? Your body mass index. You don't want to get too overweight, so you got to do a little something to stay in shape. But it shouldn't be to the point where you're over exaggerating or you are obsessed with it. All right? Because that can happen, whether or not that's real or not. That can happen. All right? You read about stories about these bodybuilders, okay? How they try to, well, I could think of one, Ronnie Coleman, that he said he was drinking vodka to try to, dry out his skin so it can have more striations in the bodybuilder contest, okay? All of that shit is little to nothing because now look at him. Barely can walk, man. Okay? Barely can walk. All of that, it profited him little to nothing at the end. Okay? Now he'll tell you he'll do it all over again, but nobody wants to be in that type of condition, man. Because you squatted, 800 or 900 pounds, or you leg press 2,000 pounds, or you bench press 500 or 600 pounds. That's good for your ego's sake, but at the overall cost of your health, it doesn't profit if nothing. But this word, it profits in everything. Okay? That's why we're glad that the Lord called us, and we pray that we're chosen to endure all the way into the end, Lord willing. Okay? Because bodily exercise profiteth little. All right? So let's go ahead and close out. I'm going to make that too long. Point was made. So let's finish up. 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. It reads, be sober, be vigilant. See? You got to prioritize. All right? That's why it says, seek ye the kingdom first. And then all these things shall be added unto you. St. Matthew 6 and 33. So you got Jake that ain't even seeking the kingdom first. He's looking to seek his own flesh, his own lust. Okay? How much can I bench press? How good do I look? You know, and all that is in vain. All right? It's vain. Okay? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't mean nothing. All right? If you don't got this truth, everything you do in this society, in this man's world is for nothing. All right? That's just the end of the story. So it's 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. It reads, be sober, be vigilant. Seek this truth. Seek Yahweh while he may be found, man. And then everything else, that's second nature, okay? You got to make time for the Lord because you're going to want him to make time for you in your darkest day, all right? When you on the bed crying because you caught a cramp or because, you overdid it, hey, the Lord ain't going to hear you, man, because you didn't seek him while he was able to be found, all right? You did you, as the youngsters say. I'm going to do me. So now I guess what the Lord going to do? He going to do him, man, and turn his nose up at your ass. While you crying, he going to mock you. Proverbs 1 and 26, I will mock at you when your calamity comes. See? The Lord was mocking and laughing at him, man. Because why? I believe that he said he's a Muslim, okay? And I didn't hear him calling on Allah, all right? And I said that's even if that's even real. All right, but nevertheless, we can get a lesson. So it's 1 Peter chapter 5 and verse 8. It reads, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour, right? And sometimes that's that devil, that deceiver, gets inside your head and tell you that you can do whatever you want because you young, because you vibrant, all right? But, hey, that's why this word is important, man, okay? That's why you got to seek the Lord first, all right? And put those imaginations, to what? To rest. Put them in subjection to Yahweh Shai, all right? So be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. All right? So with that being said, pray someone was edified through this lesson. And until the next time, if it be the Lord's will, stay strong, stay in the faith. We're almost home. Shalom. Peace.